Hi, everyone. In the 1970s, my father, Sam Gilliam, became one of the first African-American artists to be featured on the cover of a national art magazine. For a Black artist's work to be featured in this way was a significant achievement. And as groundbreaking as it was, my dad's talent and invention could not help him overcome the systemic racism and institutional barriers that he faced as an experimental Black artist in the commercial art world. For me, as a budding artist and a designer, I became increasingly aware of two polarities: the distinction between my dad's freedom and expression in the studio, and then the real-world barriers that faced him as an artist within the commercial art world. My name is Leah Gilliam. I'm the VP of Education and Innovation at Girls Who Code. It's a pleasure to be here. At Girls Who Code, our goal is to close the achievement and opportunity gaps that stop historically underrepresented groups from succeeding in computer science fields. Girls Who Code was started in 2012 by Reshma Sanjani. She's a lawyer and an activist who ran for Congress in New York. During that time, she was struck by the lack of diversity in the computer science classrooms that she visited. Although she did lose that congressional race, when she decided to devote her life to trying to solve this problem with the time that she had left. Today, Girls Who Code has taught computer science to over 35,000 young women in over 50 states. That's over 4 times the amount of women that graduated with CS degrees in just the past year. Over the past 5 years, we've seen a growing national attention to universal access to CS education. We've even seen President Obama write a line of code from the White House. Why then are programs like Girls Who Code so important? Let's take a look at the current landscape. Today, women make up only 24% of the computing workforce. Last year, there were over 500,000 open jobs in computing, but only 40,000 computer science graduates who were able to fill them. Of those 40,000 graduates, only 7,000 were women. We also know that race, geography, and socioeconomic status impact who has access to computer science education. Low-income students have limited access to advanced placement computer science compared to their higher-income peers. Black and Native American students have the least access of any students to any computer science education at all. Students who grow up in rural areas are not far behind. For me, as the VP of Innovation, closing these opportunity and achievement gaps is not just about equity and fairness, it's also about the very nature and process of innovation. One thing that we're learning is that when we don't have a wide diversity of people who are thinking about innovation within our culture, the actual innovations that we create begin to suffer. I call these problems innovation problems, and I'll go through a few of my favorite examples with you today. Heart valves are a great example of an innovation problem. This is a technology that saves hundreds of lives each day, but the original heart valves were designed to fit the width and girth of the male heart. This is because the primarily male group of engineers that devised the first heart valves thought of their own hearts as the normal size. They used the size of their hearts as the norm. Another example are airbags. This is a technology that's been around since the 1980s. The original airbags were tested on dummies that were of an average height and weight for a man. The airbags went to market in the 1980s, And there were thousands of preventable deaths of women and children because the tests were done with crash test dummies of the wrong size. It wasn't until 2003 when Swedish researchers began to rethink those assumptions that we saw some changes in the field. Female crash test dummies were used, more flexible seats were recommended, and that made the product safer for all of us. Lastly, we're seeing that racism is being coded into some of our favorite algorithms. Some of the applications that we use every day, Bloomberg has just begun to show that these algorithms are beginning to reinforce some of the entrenched inequalities that we see in our world. These are just some of the ways that we're seeing that real-world biases infect what we used to see as disruptive inventions. Widening access to computer science education is crucial to equity and to access, but it's also an idea of who is seen as an innovator, whose ideas are championed, when are they championed, why, and how. At Girls Who Code, we see our work as an educational intervention. We were created to make sure that all girls, especially with those who don't have access to computer science in their communities, especially those from historically underrepresented groups, are seen as the innovators in their communities. We want them to have the skills that they need to pursue 21st century opportunities. Here are some of the ways that Girls Who Code is specifically thinking about innovation. We're debugging CS education through the design of our programs. We're developing new products that reflect our organizational values. And we're using collaboration and project-based learning as a way to assure quality. At Girls Who Code, we pay a unique attention to diversity, inclusion, and innovation. And it's how we approach CS education. We do this by focusing on interest-based projects. We do this by introducing girls to new role models who look like them. And we do this by encouraging a sense of collegiality and community amongst our students. The CS Impact Project is the heart of the Girls Who Code Clubs program. Through this project, we ask all of the girls to work together to address a problem that's relevant to them. We ask them to apply critical thinking, problem solving, teamwork, as well as code. Studies have shown that this personal relevance is crucial to bringing girls into computer science. And most importantly, for Girls Who Code, it means that the projects that come out of our programs show the range of interests show the range of ideas that girls are interested in today. Another aspect of our approach is showing girls the diversity of the computer science field. As was highlighted so wonderfully in the video earlier today, computer science has a unique history. There are African American women, there are women from historically underrepresented groups who have had a unique contribution to computer science. We show young women that computer science is full of people who look like them, who are from their backgrounds, who also thought the computer science wasn't for them. It's a really important way that we let girls know that this is something that they can do. And finally, we know that girls need community and support. We know that this comes not just from their peers, but also from the adults who they work with as well. Our team works very, very hard to make sure that the adults who are in our classrooms, the adults who visit our programs, are caring, adaptive, and represent the girls that we work with the most. We want them to see the potential in all girls, and we want everyone to know what we know, that all girls have the capability and the passion to learn how to code. But to bug the current computer science landscape, we also know we have to think innovatively about how we address both the cultural and structural barriers. At Girls Who Code, we also think about this idea of creating new products. For me, as an artist and a designer, this was one of the most exciting things about coming to Girls Who Code, was the opportunity to make new products targeted at the girls who have been in our programs. One initiative that my team recently developed was a mobile app called Girls Who Code Loop. It's based on the computer science concept of the for loop, and it encourages girls to connect to one another, to build community and to lend support, and it helps girls find opportunities in their neighborhoods for them to continue to learn computer science. This is just one of the ways that Girls Who Code has worked to build a technical and a social infrastructure for the young women that we work with. Finally, we're also applying what we're learning from some of the innovation problems I mentioned earlier to ensure that we're building resilient and relevant products within our classrooms as well. Our approach to project-based learning is quite unique. One of my favorite examples that came out of our summer immersion program last summer was a mobile app called Safe Spaces Plus. This was developed by 4 Girls Who Code students in our Seattle program. They called their project team the Champion Bees, and the Champion Bees came together after 5 weeks of working with Girls Who Code and learning how to code. And they specifically came together to build a mobile app that was targeted at the LGBTQ community in Seattle. Seattle has the 2nd largest LGBTQ community and the highest rates of hate crimes against that community. So what was interesting to me about finding out about this project is that the Champion Bees came together not just because they were interested in these issues, but also because they had some new technical ideas that they wanted to pursue as well. Some of the girls were interested in this as a social justice issue, and some of the other girls were just interested in learning how to use the Google Maps API and applying that in a social context. When the Champion Bees finished coding their web app, they had the idea that they'd like to port it to mobile and make it more accessible. The teacher from their classroom reached out to engineers who were working at Adobe. The Adobe engineers came in and worked with the Champion Bees and helped them to port the app to mobile so it could be more accessible. This is a great example of how we really see a number of different people coming together to work with our girls to help them to express their ideas. So the good news is that we're seeing our approach at Girls Who Code working. At the end of our programs, we ask the young women whether they are more interested in computer science, whether computer science is something that they can see themselves doing. And we hear from 90% of our alumni that they are, that they intend to major in computer science, they intend to major or minor in computer science when they get to college, or some just tell us that they're more likely to think of themselves as someone who could do computer science out in the world. This is really important to us. In the 5 years since our founding, we've had a great impact. And it's thanks to organizations like NAF that we're really going to be able to spread our message across the United States. This success to date definitely gives us hope. But at the same time, we're seeing that the numbers are threatening to get worse. In the next 10 years, women's share of the United States computing workforce really threatens to decline. And despite the increased interest in computer science that we've seen, we know that to reverse the decline, we need to focus on girls, on historically underrepresented groups, and design interventions that are specifically targeted for them. This is a problem that we at Girls Who Code see as solvable, and we need everyone's help in doing this. One of the things that I always like to tell people is that they can help to disrupt the pattern. You can teach a Girls Who Code club, you can facilitate a club. We've worked very hard with our education team to make it so that people who are just interested in encouraging girls to work in tech can also facilitate our clubs. You can help us build metrics, keep track of the number of young women, the number of people from historically underrepresented groups who are pursuing computer science, who are working in STEM in your organizations. You can set goals, set targets, and keep yourself accountable to making sure that you reach them. You can also support a young person in your life to learn how to code. You can encourage your daughter, your sister, a cousin, anyone to pursue computer science. You can send them to the Girls Who Code website to find a club in their neighborhood. As a society, We always look to Silicon Valley, we look to technological innovation as the key to solving today's biggest problems. But as long as innovation is hampered by systemic racism, by institutional barriers, those innovations will always themselves be hampered. We know that innovation is at risk, and that historically underrepresented groups have to be a part of the design teams of the innovators who are being asked to reshape this world. At Girls Who Code, we know instinctively that it's more than code. We know that we have to teach girls how to be brave, how to be resilient, how to recover from making mistakes. Computer science is uniquely positioned to help girls learn how to do these things while they're learning a technical skill. And for me, it's seeing our students bring themselves to this work, to bring their concerns to the kinds of projects that they make in the world, that gives me great hope. Thank you.